Welcome to Buddha Coha. Have you ever noticed how easily a single harsh word, a minor inconvenience, or someone else's bitter mood can completely derail your day? In our fast-paced world, we are constantly bombarded by external noise. We react, we defend, we get angry, and in the process, we surrender our precious inner peace to people and circumstances entirely outside of our control. But what if you could build a quiet fortress around your mind? What if you could reach a state of profound stillness where absolutely nothing could trigger you? Today, we are exploring a deeply healing Buddhist philosophy that reveals the ultimate secret to emotional freedom. Once you truly understand this, you will never react the same way again. Let us begin this journey toward unshakable peace. Part 1. The root of reactivity, detachment. Let us begin with the foundation of our emotional turbulence. In the profound teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, there is a deep understanding of why we suffer when the world does not go our way. Why do the words of a stranger, or the changing moods of a loved one, have the power to completely ruin our day? The answer lies in a single concept, attachment, or what is known in ancient Pali as upadana, which translates to clinging or grasping. Most of us walk through life like fragile leaves in the wind. We are constantly tossed around by the opinions of others, by sudden changes in our circumstances, and by our own fleeting emotions. One harsh word from a coworker, and our entire sense of self-worth collapses. One small failure, and we immediately begin to question our value. This happens because our happiness is not truly our own, it is heavily mortgaged to the outside world. We are deeply attached to seeking approval, craving success, desiring comfort, and desperately wanting to control the outcomes of our lives. The profound truth of mindfulness is that suffering does not actually come from what happens to you. It comes from how tightly you are gripping the illusion of how things should be. We cling to being liked. We cling to being right. We cling to being in perfect control. And every single time the unpredictable nature of reality shatters those expectations, our peace is violently broken. But here is the beautiful shift in perspective. What if you practice the art of detachment? Now, detachment in this context is often deeply misunderstood. It does not mean you become cold, distant, or stop caring about the people in your life. It means you care deeply, you love with your whole heart, and you show up with pure intention, but you no longer tie your inner peace and your identity to the final result. When you detach from outcomes, a remarkable transformation occurs within your spirit. You begin to realize that nothing outside of you has the power to disturb your inner stillness unless you personally hand over the keys to your mind. Whether someone showers you with praise or throws insults at your feet, your core remains entirely unmoved. If they praise you, you smile, knowing your true value was never dependent on their applause. If they insult you, you smile just the same, understanding that their harsh words are merely a reflection of their own internal suffering, not a measure of your worth. You become like a deep-rooted tree standing tall in the middle of a fierce storm. The winds will howl, and the rain will pour, but your center remains calm and unshaken. Think of it as unburdening your soul. When you stop depending on external validation to feel okay, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty. You do not resist the world, you simply observe it, breathe through it, and gently let go. This letting go is where your true mastery begins. Part 2. The Art of Acceptance. Moving seamlessly from detachment, we find ourselves at the threshold of another profound truth, the art of acceptance. At the very heart of the teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva lies a realization that many of us spend our entire lives struggling to face. It is the understanding that our deepest suffering is not actually caused by what happens to us. Instead, Our suffering is caused by how fiercely we resist what happens. We suffer not because life is inherently difficult, but because we hold on to the rigid belief that life shouldn't be difficult. We resist the pain, the sudden losses, the discomforts, and the perceived unfairness. And in that relentless resistance, we create a raging storm inside our own minds. Think about the times you have felt the most profound anxiety or anger. Almost always, it arises from craving reality to be something other than what it is right now. We crave absolute certainty in a world that is naturally uncertain. We crave permanent comfort in a universe that is constantly shifting and flowing. We crave control, but life owes us no control. Life will not always follow your meticulously crafted plans. People may misunderstand you, dreams may be delayed, and circumstances will shift in ways you never anticipated. No amount of worrying, overthinking, or emotional resistance can change the reality of the present moment. This is why true acceptance is never a sign of weakness. Acceptance is the ultimate liberation. Now, let us be very clear about what acceptance means on this spiritual journey. Acceptance does not mean that you have to like what is happening. It does not mean you approve of injustice, mistreatment, or failure. Rather, it means you simply stop fighting reality with your mind. You lay down the weapons of your mental war, the war that keeps you feeling stuck, bitter, and endlessly exhausted. When something painful occurs, your very first instinct might be to silently scream, "This shouldn't be happening to me." But that single thought instantly doubles your suffering. You are now feeling the original pain of the event, multiplied by the heavy burden of your resistance to it. Acceptance, on the other hand, is gently whispering to your own heart, "This is what is happening right now. I do not have to love it, but I do not have to fight it either." Imagine you are caught in a sudden, heavy downpour of rain with no umbrella. You can stand there, screaming at the dark clouds, cursing the sky, and getting furious about being completely soaked. Or, you can take a deep breath, feel the cool raindrops on your skin, and simply keep walking. In both scenarios, you are getting wet. But only one of those paths brings you peace. This internal surrender to the truth of the moment allows you to stop pushing against life and start flowing effortlessly with it. The moment you say, "This is how it is right now," you instantly create a vast, quiet space in your soul for peace to enter. Part 3. Observe, don't absorb. Now that we understand the power of detachment and acceptance, we arrive at one of the most vital skills for protecting our inner peace, the practice of observing rather than absorbing. Life constantly throws unpredictable emotions, harsh words, and frantic energies your way. Every single day, you encounter people who project their deep-seated pain, their unhealed insecurities, and their unresolved anger onto you. In those difficult interactions, most of us have a deeply ingrained habit: we absorb everything. We take their heavy, chaotic energy, carry it in our own chest, let it swirl in our minds, and before we know it, we become exactly what we were reacting to. We feel furious simply because someone else was furious. We feel heavy because someone else dumped their emotional baggage right at our feet. But within the gentle teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, there is a deeply liberating truth: you do not have to absorb the energy around you. You are completely allowed to just observe it and let it pass by. Imagine your mind as a vast, incredibly still lake. No matter what drops into this lake, a tiny pebble, a falling autumn leaf, or even a violent storm, it will undoubtedly create ripples on the surface. But those ripples are only temporary. If you do not disturb the water further, it will always, inevitably, return to its natural state of profound stillness. In the same way, You can train your mind to witness whatever is happening around you without actually becoming what is happening. When someone speaks to you with sharp anger, you can choose to observe that anger. Notice the volume of their voice, see the tension in their posture, but do not catch their emotion like a common cold. See it for what it truly is, a temporary wave of their own personal suffering passing through them. When someone criticizes you unfairly, pay attention to how your body wants to react. Notice the sudden heat rising in your chest or the tightness in your throat. But do not become that reaction. Take a slow, deep breath. Watch the feeling rise, and watch it fall away. You must realize this profound spiritual secret: you are not your thoughts, and you are not your fleeting emotions. You are the silent, steady awareness that exists right behind them. You are the quiet observer that remains entirely undisturbed, no matter how loud the world becomes. Think of it like being handed a burning coal. If someone tries to hand you a glowing, burning coal and you simply refuse to grab it, you do not get burned. But the moment you reach out, grab it, and hold tightly onto it, you invite the suffering into your own flesh. That is precisely what absorbing the negativity of others does to your beautiful spirit. It turns you into a mirror for their unresolved pain. But when you master the art of observing, you create a safe, emotional distance. You remain grounded, you remain beautifully light, and no matter how chaotic the external world gets, you stand firmly in your own peaceful light. Part 4: The Sacred Pause. As we learn the gentle art of observing without absorbing, we uncover the exact place where true emotional mastery is born. It lives in a space so incredibly small that most of us completely miss it. We call it the sacred pause. In every difficult interaction, right before the explosion of anger, right before the sharp defense, and right before the heavy wave of regret, there is a tiny, fleeting moment. It is the brief gap between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. That moment may seem insignificant, but in the teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, that tiny moment is absolutely everything. We often move through life believing that we are prisoners of our circumstances. But the profound truth is that we are not prisoners of what happens to us, we become prisoners of our own automatic reactions. These reactions are blindingly fast. Someone insults you, and your ego instantly wants to snap back. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and a surge of furious energy rises like a sudden fire in your chest. A sudden challenge appears, and fear grips your throat before you can even think. But here is the deeply healing reality: you are not that first, sudden emotion. You are not that knee-jerk reaction. You are the infinite, quiet awareness that has the power to pause and choose. That pause is your ultimate power. That pause is your true freedom. When you intentionally train yourself to insert a pause, even just the length of a single, deep breath or a quiet heartbeat, you interrupt the storm before it has the chance to flood your mind. You step completely out of your conditioned, defensive habits and step directly into pure awareness. In that brief moment of stillness, you can come back to your center and ask yourself, what is the wise response here? You are no longer looking for the emotional response, or the habitual response, but the conscious one. Most of our daily suffering begins simply because we react blindly. We say harsh words we do not truly mean. We take impulsive actions that we later deeply regret. And all of it happens because we allow our fleeting emotions to completely hijack the present moment. But when you practice the sacred pause, you rewire your very nature. You go from instantly reacting to instantly observing. You learn to speak not to hurt, but to heal. You learn to act not out of blind impulse, but from a place of deeply grounded clarity. Over time, you will realize that this gentle pause does not just prevent you from causing damage, it actively creates a beautiful, expansive space for wisdom to enter your life. You don't just avoid reacting, you rise entirely above the chaos. True strength is never measured by how incredibly fast you can react or defend yourself. True strength is measured by how deeply and peacefully you can pause. Because in that quiet pause, you gain all of your power back. You reclaim your inner sanctuary, and from that profound stillness, you move through the world with pure, unshakable intention. If you are finding a sense of peace in these words today, we gently invite you to pause for just a moment. Please softly click the like button and subscribe to Buddha Coha. By joining our mindful community, you help spread this healing, calm energy to others who might be quietly struggling in the storm today. We would also love to hear from your heart. Share with us in the comments below, what is one thing that usually triggers you, and how will you practice the sacred pause the next time it happens? Let us support each other on this journey. Now, let us return to our practice. Part 5. Let the fire burn out. When you begin to master the sacred pause, a beautiful shift occurs. You start to see the anger of others not as a personal attack, but as a burning fire they are carrying in their own hands. When someone throws negativity, criticism, or pure rage in your direction, our most natural human instinct is immediately triggered. We feel the sudden heat rising in our chest, our thoughts begin to race, and suddenly, we are standing right on the battlefield of a senseless emotional war. We feel an overwhelming need to prove our point, fiercely defend our honor, or destroy the other person's argument. But within the gentle, profound teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, there is an incredibly radical and deeply liberating truth. You absolutely do not have to fuel their fire. You have the absolute power to simply let it burn out completely on its own. It is a fundamental law of the universe that hatred is never, ever ended by more hatred. Not once in all of human history has a fiery wave of anger truly healed another person's anger. Only pure, deep understanding and total inner stillness can bring about lasting peace. Think of it in this profound way: when someone directs their harsh negativity straight toward you, they are essentially walking up to you and handing you a brightly burning torch. Now, if you react, if you take that torch and shout back, the fire instantly spreads. You both burn in the chaos. But if you simply look at the torch, breathe deeply, and absolutely refuse to pick it up, what happens? The fire has nowhere to go. It is forced to remain in their hands. And without the fresh oxygen of your reaction, it slowly and inevitably dies. This is exactly what true inner mastery looks like. It is absolutely not about being passive or incredibly weak. It is about deeply knowing your own worth. Engaging in every single pointless argument, constantly defending yourself against every slight insult, and reacting to every minor provocation violently drains your precious inner peace and only serves to strengthen your fragile ego. The human ego desperately wants to fight, to scream, and to be right. But your soul simply wants to stay perfectly free. Imagine standing there in complete calm as someone screams or insults you. You do not argue. You do not defensively explain yourself. You simply let them empty their burning words into the open air. And when they are finished, you consciously choose absolute silence. No reaction. No heated emotional response. Just your powerful, grounded presence. At first, this will completely confuse them. Then, it will profoundly disarm them. Because in that quiet moment, they realize something they never expected: they have absolutely no control over you. Your refusal to aggressively respond is not a weakness, it is a vastly higher form of power. Because when you refuse to return anger with more anger, you ensure that you never have to carry it heavily in your own heart. You stay wonderfully light. You stay entirely free. You let their fire burn out completely while you remain beautifully untouched by its flames. Because your inner peace is not a fragile thing they can easily take, it is a sacred space you fiercely protect with your quiet awareness. Part 6: Silence as the Language of the Wise. As we gently learn to let the fires of others burn out naturally, we arrive at the very tool that makes such profound restraint possible: silence. In our modern, relentlessly fast-paced world, where noise is utterly constant and opinions are endlessly loud, everyone seems to be caught in an exhausting race simply to be heard. But in the deep, quiet teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, silence is truly the ultimate language of the wise. It is an incredibly rare and beautiful power. You must understand that true silence is not simply the mere absence of spoken words. It is the overwhelming presence of pure, deep awareness. It is the sacred, quiet space where true wisdom lives and breathes. In the profound texts of the Dhammapada, it is written that a single word bringing genuine peace is far better than 1,000 hollow, meaningless words. And sometimes, the most profound peace comes when even that one single word is left unspoken. The person who has beautifully mastered their inner silence does not constantly feel the heavy need to explain themselves. They do not frantically fight for attention, desperately prove their worth, or try to aggressively out-talk anyone in the room. They consciously choose to speak only when it is truly necessary, and they confidently stay silent when it is deeply wise. And when they finally do speak, their carefully chosen words carry immense weight and beauty because they are firmly rooted in profound clarity, never in a rushed, emotional reaction. You see, when you speak from a place of a bruised, fragile ego, you often say incredibly hurtful things that only bring deep regret. You say entirely too much, you defend yourself entirely too hard, and you argue entirely too long. You readily sacrifice your own precious peace just to bitterly win an argument that, in the grand scheme of your life, did not matter in the absolute slightest. But when you gently begin to cultivate your own inner silence, you realize a beautifully liberating truth: not every single action in this world deserves your immediate response. Not every harsh opinion needs your emotional reaction. Not every tiny insult needs to be aggressively answered. This absolutely does not mean you allow people to cruelly walk all over you. It simply means you have become so incredibly secure and grounded within your own soul that you no longer feel the desperate need to prove anything to anyone. You fully realize that your true, inherent worth is never found in how loud your voice can get, but in how beautifully steady your spirit remains. Silence is absolutely never a sign of weakness. Silence is profound, unwavering control. It is your ultimate decision to absolutely not let the external chaos violently stir your internal peace. When someone aggressively attacks you with harsh words, you can either defensively fire back and play the exhausting game of ego, or you can remain beautifully silent, not out of hidden fear, but out of a deep, profound understanding that their harsh words are merely a reflection of them, not you. Part 7: Focused Energy Over Time. As we integrate the gentle power of silence into our daily lives, we must come to understand the final, deeply profound lesson of this spiritual journey: the power of focused energy over time. In the timeless wisdom of the Buddha and Bodhisattva, there is a fundamental truth that often goes entirely unnoticed in our modern, rushed existence. It is the realization that incredibly small, steady, and entirely mindful efforts of the mind, when beautifully repeated day after day, create real and wonderfully lasting change. In Buddhist teachings, this steady cultivation is known as bhavana, the gentle training and continuous growth of the human mind. Very simply put, the entire course of your life moves exactly in the direction of your deepest, most consistent attention. And when your daily focus is calm, remarkably steady, and deeply purposeful, even the tiniest inner shifts can lead to monumental transformations. But here is the profound challenge that so many of us face: our incredibly scattered, frantic energy. Our precious focus is spread far too thin across 1,000 different, exhausting directions. We blindly react to random comments, we are endlessly distracted by bright screens, and we are violently pulled by fleeting emotions. We rarely take the quiet, sacred time simply to notice. Our mind frantically jumps from heavy past regrets to anxious future worries, from bitterly comparing ourselves to painfully doubting ourselves, and then back to the noisy present all over again. And this painfully scattered attention is not just deeply exhausting, it leaves our spirit fragile. Because human energy without a clear, mindful direction is exactly like water poured without a sturdy container. It spills everywhere, it quickly fades into the dry earth, and it entirely disappears. It leaves your spirit deeply uneasy and incredibly quick to react defensively. But mindfulness gently shows us the beautiful opposite way. It softly teaches you to pull your scattered, exhausted energy all the way back home. Bring your full, undivided focus gently back to this exact, present moment. Train it softly, sharpen it beautifully, and aim it like a warm, steady beam of light, using that deeply grounded energy purely for your own growth, profound peace, and clear vision. This quiet transformation is absolutely not something you force to happen just once, it is something you gently practice every single day. With every slow, deep breath you take, with every sudden reaction you beautifully choose not to follow, with every dark, negative thought you simply notice but bravely refuse to obey. And slowly, something incredibly beautiful and almost entirely unseen begins to happen deep within your soul. You begin to fundamentally change from within, not because you aggressively forced it, but because you lovingly, gently nurtured it over time. True, unshakable peace is absolutely not found by desperately trying to control the chaotic world around you. It is discovered by beautifully transforming the quiet world within you. Once you lovingly cultivate this profound inner stillness, the loud, external chaos completely loses its grip. You truly become the mountain, forever unmoved by the passing, turbulent winds. Thank you, with all our hearts, for spending this sacred, quiet time with us here at Buddha Coha. If these gentle words brought any comfort or profound stillness to your precious heart today, please carry this peaceful, healing energy with you out into your busy world. Breathe deeply, walk incredibly gently, and always remember that your profound, unshakable peace is, and always will be, completely in your own hands. Before you gently close this video and step back into your busy day, if this message brought any light or comfort to your soul, please take a brief, mindful moment to subscribe to Buddha Coha and give this video a gentle thumbs up. Sharing this video with someone you care about is a beautiful way to spread the profound wisdom of the Buddha and Bodhisattva. Do not forget to click the notification bell so we can continue to walk together on this beautiful path to inner peace. To anchor this deeply calm feeling within you right now, leave a comment below simply saying, "I am at peace." Thank you, deeply, for your beautiful presence today. Until we meet again, may you be deeply happy, may you be wonderfully healthy, and may you live your beautiful life with profound ease.